Mark Zuckerberg says White House pressured Facebook to censor all of the cough content. As if this was some crazy news to any of us. Now it is more confirmed. Now, actually, Zuckerberg has been kind of publicly in a different kind of way, even since the attempt on our former prez. He actually came out and said it was awesome what he did afterwards. And a lot of people have actually grown to like the new Zuckerberg, surfing with the American flag, all of these weird things, and going to blacksmiths and making swords just for the fun of it, when they used to call him a robot. Well, now a lot of people actually think that he has a conscience and that he is popping out with all of this truth. Again, what he is saying is really quite terrifying, especially considering what happened over the last 5 years. The Meta boss, Mark Zuckerberg, has said that he regrets bowing to what he claims was pressure from the US Gov to censor posts about the cough. This was both on Facebook and Instagram during, of course, the time period where we were all locked down. Zuckerberg said senior White House officials in JB's administration repeatedly pressured Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, to take down certain cough content. It says in 2021, senior officials from the JB administration, and this is a direct quote, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our teams for months to censor cough content, and of course including humor and satire, and expressed a lot of frustration with our teams when we didn't agree. He said in a letter to Jim Jordan, the head of the U.S. House of Representatives, quote, "I believe the Gov pressure was wrong." Now, it says during the demic, of course, Facebook added misinfo alerts to users when they commented on or liked posts that were judged to contain bad info about the cough. The company also deleted posts criticizing, of course, anything that went inside of your body. Of course, and they would delete those posts criticizing anything about that or suggestions that was actually made or was born in China, or if it was in that lab, which again later on came out, and everything that was a theory is closer to the truth than what people, of course, know. In the 2020 U.S. Prez campaign, of course, President JB accused social media platforms such as Facebook of taking the lives of people by allowing disinfo about the cough, the V's, to be posted on his platform. Says, quote, "I think we made some choices that, with the benefit in hindsight and new information, we wouldn't make today." Also said, "I regret we were not more outspoken about it. Like I said to our teams at the time, I feel strongly that we should not compromise our content standards due to pressure from any administration in either direction, and we are ready to push back if something like this happens again." Now, remember, there was a lot of money involved in ads on Facebook. In fact, back in 2016, you saw ginormous amounts pumped into Facebook, into their ad platform, and essentially everyone thought that Hillary was actually going to win. And that is mostly because the media had her side. The online part had her side. Almost every platform had ads everywhere you could see. You could not turn around and see her face. But yet she still lost. So it was a very, very crazy thing to see that this underdog essentially won. Now you're seeing the same thing with the current new candidate, and you're seeing her everywhere. She's on every rap video. She's freaking in every MTV background saying, "Yeah, let's do it. I'm the brat. I'm Mamala." Again, this is like history repeating itself. But now Facebook is saying that they're not going to do the same thing. Do you believe them? I don't know. Again, Dorsey, after he was not CEO, he said things that kind of broke out about what happened with Twitter. Obviously, the files came out on what was going on with Twitter. And of course, a lot of us know this now. So how does a fact like this come out? How did they admit that this was happening? And how does nothing happen about it? I think it's absurd. And if you think that the VP is going to all of a sudden change everything up and go, "We're not going to do what I already did for 4 years, we're going to change it," then you're probably crazy. But at the same point, there's a lot of people that actually agree that all of this should happen, that you should not be able to just say anything, because that's absurd. In fact, it might even be violent. We're going to talk about this and, of course, the updates on the World War III, of course, the crazy, crazy hacks that are happening. The US Marshals were hacked. Obviously, if you followed us over, we just talked about how China hacked into internet service providers. On top of the list of things that they just did, obviously something is painting a very clear picture of what is about to happen. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, so somebody said that how many thousands of nationals from China are coming across our border. I call Ganda. So just so you know, I don't know what way you're saying that. Text is very confusing. You could say that the other stuff is and that's what's happening. Again, but I do want to say to anybody that has seen previous shows about that and what we said, those are all backed up by not only Pentagon numbers, but border control numbers. And, of course, you have independent journalists that have actually done the entire trip all the way through the Darien Gap, all the way through up into Mexico and into right up to the border. So we do know that that's happening from people that are friendly. And, of course, a lot of folks in our community have not only gone to the south part of the border, but have also gone to the north. So, yeah, that is happening. And the numbers are what are absolutely insane. Are they all just coming to get a new life? It's hard to say. For me, not so much. All right, let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Fuku fam. I'm doing just fine.
Now, people said that Dex was a little bit quiet last show. Make sure to let me know if either one of us are quiet or loud. Let me know and I can fix the audio there. Let's say hello, Mitch Mouth. We've got Trevor, STL79, Julie C, Lord Andrew. Let's see here. Big Bugs is in the house. Big Chase, I saw you made a comment before the show started that you will be watching, but just somewhere on a different platform. So, again, whichever one you choose, I'm glad that you're still sticking around. Of course, we're over on X, we're on the Rumble, and we're also on DLive. Stealth Mode, 5x5, Colby Wilson, Sean C, Tracy Q, what's going on? Nice to see you. Live Free, Die Free, 5x5, bro. Hey, what is going on? We've got Kefa of AZ, we've got, of course, Jennifer Chamberlain, Tammy Lee, Dr. Sean Berry, and so many more. Thank you so much for making it earlier. Make sure to thank your mods in the chat right now by dropping an M. Obviously, you can also go check them out at marfooglenews.com/friends. All right, Dex, if you want to comment on the Zuckerberg thing, first of all, I do think that, I don't know, something tells me that all of these guys, obviously they get to their richness. All of these rich CEOs have absolutely sacrificed every one of their morals. Can they be redeemed? Can they come back later? Maybe the next 10 years of his life, he can try to fix it by, telling the truth. I think that everybody is redeemable. That's just my belief that people can actually change and that they can come back if they've done bad things, that they can do good things and help. But he would have to do a lot of good because that platform did a lot of bad during periods. Same with Dorsey, obviously, same with a lot of these places, right? And with Zuckerberg, it's like all of his recent stuff, you want to like him.
Well, yeah, look, I look at it. I think he's kind of riding a wave, kind of like he did on the back of the boat, the wave wake boat he was riding on with the flag. But look, he is riding this wave that's going on in Silicon Valley, and I think there's been a big shift, or somewhat of a shift, in Silicon Valley with some of the opinions about what has gone on with the tech industry in relation to what has gone on with the economy, which is affecting the tech industry outside of AI. I think he, has a good slice of humble pie from the whole Meta side of things, and how that did or did not, as most people think, work out in the way he expected it to, and how all these other AI players have jumped much higher in the tech space quickly, more quickly than he did. And I think he is, was riding that wave, so to speak, pre, back in the years when they were doing all the stuff the government was telling them, because they were the dominant power, and that was just sort of what Silicon Valley was all on board. Everybody was just all, doing that same thing, if you want to call it that. And now we've seen a shift. There has been a significant shift, whether you want to say part of it started with Elon and then some of the other tech tycoons that have sort of shifted. But then you've also got others that were more traditionals that have sort of kind of said, you know what, things just aren't, we can't keep going down this crazy train here. We got to get a little bit of sanity back in what we're doing, because we, as a bunch of Silicon Valley investors who make tons and tons of money off of technology, aren't making all that money right now. It's all dried up because there's been problems with the economics. So I got a sneaking suspicion he's riding that wave with them. And that's why we see a shift right now. And he's not the top dog. He's not the big banana anymore. So I don't know, just my opinion.
I think it would be absolute hell to be in a position where you would not only have to hide your real views, and who knows what his real views are, but not only hide your real views, like almost half of, more than half, 90% of celebrities have to hide their actual views about things, or otherwise they just will not work. But not only that, to say the opposite, to say you believe the absolute opposite of what you actually believe. Now, I know that probably comes naturally for actors and actresses, but for, CEOs and things like that, I think that would be a hell. And they do it for money. They do it to get to the place they are. Once they're there, what you often see is then they grow a conscience. All of a sudden, Como is now on Newsmax, Chris Como. And, of course, now he's turned a new leaf, and now he's calling out the establishment. Like, does anybody believe that? Now, some of the things he says, you can absolutely agree with that. And people are going to jump on the Como new wagon, right? They're going to forgive what he said and go that. But what I see is somebody who just flipped scripts because he lost his reputation on one side, so he just flipped to the next.
He got kicked out of the club, so to speak, right? Yeah. When all of a sudden you get abandoned by, you're on Team A, and Team A is protecting you and lifting you up and giving you everything you possibly want because you spew everything they want you to spew, and then all of a sudden they kick you to the curb like trash. What are you going to do? You're going to keep doing the same thing? Well, some people do, but most people are going to be like he did and say, you know what? There was a lot wrong there, and I can speak my mind now because I'm no longer beholden to the team that was holding me up since they kicked me out.
Carolyn Morris Smith says, I'd like to know who, I just got that, pressured him. Yeah. Well, you said it in the question, but also who is above that, if you know what I mean. Who's above them, and who is in that group. But yeah, and then of course they're saying that the admin did, but is the admin the thing running everything? Nobody believes that. So, and then somebody else made a quick comment, which we'll move on, but they'll say it's for the greater good. How many of you, and let's just do a quick vote, 1 or 2 in the chat, and I'll pull it up. How many of you believe that some of the people that are in the rich kind of ruling class, but they are not the very top, they're kind of just the people that are lucky enough to be in the club, how many of you think that they have actually told them that everything that's going to happen, all of these changes, the IDs, all of this, and even possibly even reducing how many of us are here with different tactics, How many of you think that that has been told to them as, well, these people aren't going to make the decision for themselves because nobody is going to decide to not do this. Nobody's going to do the hard changes needed to save the world. Say one if you think yes, two if you think no. Again, how many of you think that they are being told that they're actually heroes, that they're heroes in this scenario? I think that is what is happening. So great comment. And then let's see here. Thank you for everybody that just popped in too. A lot of people just dropped into the chat. Thank you so much. Clone Singer, thank you for the super thanks. I appreciate that. And thank you for the new members this week. I appreciate all of you guys. Thank you, Joseph Yanni, Playing Dirty, Bobby Sue Fry, Baron Saturday, Mindy Horstrom. So yeah, a lot of ones, and there are some twos there, and some zeros. All right, and then Dex, let's go over to Russia. Russia is signaling it could take out the West's internet and GPS. There's no good backup plan. We basically have no contingency.
Right. And so look, this shouldn't be new news to some of you, because if you've been listening to the show, we've covered this all along the way. The continuous attacks on the GPS, the jamming, the capability now that Russia has developed because they've had the opportunity throughout the multiple years of this conflict to perfect their ability to jam our GPS. We have seen the cables cut in different areas, but more specifically, we've seen the cable cutting subs starting to map out specific areas, like in Europe, up in, I believe it is near Ireland is one of the areas that's really considered, because there's a lot of wire that comes across from the North America over there. So we've got all of these concerns about what they can do, but yet even if they did that, we don't really have a plan to solve it. Like, we've done practice drills to run without a GPS, but that doesn't solve the rest of our problems with GPS. It just handles some military training. We don't have backups for the cable cuts when they happen. And the fact is, they're suggesting that that Russia has been planning to do this, or at least getting prepared to do this as part of, whatever response they may need as part of an escalation with NATO. That would probably be one of the first things they do: cut the lines. One of the first things they do, try to start jamming out the GPS as much as they can and disrupt air travel. Of course, obviously disrupting the military. So NATO is increasingly worried about the vulnerability of the undersea cables. It transmits about 95% of international data through there. They've stepped up their surveillance around Ireland due to concerns about recent Russian sub-activity. And then, of course, with the GPS interference, that just has continued to happen even outside of Ukraine, in the Baltics, in the other European countries that are bordering there. They're getting that, and it's not just military that's seeing it; it's commercial air traffic that's seeing it.
And you look at the cutting of the undersea cables. What has been going on? We've covered these. There's been events where you have commercial ships, fishing ships, cargo ships by China, which is their closest and no limits partner, actually cutting these cables, right? And in Taiwan, they said, oh, it's an accident. This is over here is an accident. All of these things. I don't believe it. Not to mention, you, of course, have them practicing with all of this GPS stuff in this conflict. And you have places in Europe that cannot get GPS because it's actually spilling over to their country. Or are they purposely doing it for practice? As far as taking out our internet, the first huge sign that this was happening is when they ended up making their internet an intranet. If you don't remember that, you can go and watch the whole show we did right before it was announced, before it was done. Which, Dex, do you remember how fast it was done after they said, well, we may actually turn our internet into an intranet, meaning they could shut off the rest of the world if anything happened. They made the infrastructure to keep the internet up if the rest of the world was down. Do you remember how fast it was?
It was measured in months, like a month or two, maybe 6 months at the most, but it was super short. Like, normally you would think something like that, a rollout of a national change on internet and capabilities like that might, be a 6 month to 1 year, 2 year plan. They did it in record time.
I mean, it was like by the time we were still, kind of mentioning it, like, oh, just a couple weeks ago, and then all of a sudden they say they have the internet and they turned it on. This has been used already. They've been able to essentially turn off information that they don't like. And of course, people that support Russia, they're saying, well, they're doing it because of all the Ganda. I understand this, but when you're able to turn your internet into an intranet, whether you're the victim or the aggressor, that's a plan. That is a contingency for if the rest of it goes down, you are keeping yours up and running. I believe we covered something around China essentially doing the same. China already has all of this stuff in place where they can block any site that they want. They can actually stop information going out through internet. And the few ways that it slips through, they've been monitoring, tracking, and basically going in and changing things around that. So we have something that was a huge, huge flag that they are going to change things real soon. This is a big deal. And as far as they're now saying, oh, they're signaling to do this, we've known for years. You don't turn your country internet into an intranet unless you're thinking something might go down. And then their leaked Noah's Ark plan. Look up Vladimir Putin's Noah's Ark plan. It's like his plan to get all of his leaders out. And then they have bunkers for every single person in Moscow. I mean, that country is insane on its own. And then Russia hits out at the U.S. after pummeling Ukraine with second night of strikes. Now, as I talked about last night, all of the pictures used for this almost looked like stock photos. We were making fun of it at one point because they show us in multiple articles a picture of all of these people in whatever metro station in Ukraine, essentially underground, sitting on an escalator that the escalators actually stopped, right? Well, we pointed out that, a Marfoogle family member pointed out that why are we seeing a picture of escalator? Why are we not seeing hundreds of videos of the war or photos of what is actually happening? Well, that is because everything that's been going on in UKR has been essentially, hidden. And I say that because in the very beginning, they didn't want to embed journalists with the troops. And then, of course, we get what they want us to see. It's kind of like they'll lift back the curtain and be like, look at that. Look at what they did. But then they don't show the bad stuff. So they'll show if it's, a school this or school that. But then when Russia's just absolutely mauling them, they want all of us to think that they're winning, that our tax dollars aren't going to waste, that we didn't just send billions and billions and billions of dollars into a losing fight that is basically putting all of us into inflation and everything else. They're blaming all that on Putin when we are the ones who are voluntarily helping somebody who is not in NATO. Again, this place wasn't in NATO in the first place for a reason. So all of these things, come into play. And then, of course, Russia launched waves of drone and missile strikes across UK overnight into Tuesday while accusing the United States of involvement in Kiev's incursion into Russia and repeating warnings it could review its nuclear doctrine in response. In the last 24 hours, more than 90 missile and drone attacks rained down across the country, taking the lives of at least 4 people and injuring 16 others, which is pretty insane, saying that the amount of damage and the amount of infrastructure that they say they just took out, it's kind of crazy, actually, that they right now are saying 4 people have perished. So either they are actually hitting, infrastructure dead on and it's not taking out people, or the damage isn't as bad as they think, or they're just lying about the numbers of people that have perished. I don't know which is true. We don't know if any of it is true because really at this point, the media is now completely compromised, in my opinion. But again, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Remember, there's a full bibliography. If you have any questions about the work we did for the show, you can go over to marfooglenews.com. You can find a full list of articles, a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document we're going to show you here today. Plus, if you lose the link or anything that you see, like affiliates that you want, they're all on the right side of the page. So very easy to access, and it's very easy to share with a friend or family member as far as all of these articles. You can go get the source, share it with your friend or family member. That way you can let them know about what is going on. giving really solid articles that they can go, well, oh, wow, this is verified. In the very least, that can get their ball rolling on their prep. Even if you don't share us out, make sure to share the information because it is available and it is extra to do all of this. So again, please utilize it, and it is searchable as well and archived. Every single day, you can basically look what that day was and then what news happened. All right, and then before we move on, make sure to go check out marfooglenews.com/prep. If you don't have backup food, at this point, I think it's kind of nuts. But as far as the backup food that you get, that's up to you. You can do affordable ways to do this. You can try to, of course, if you really do not have any funds, there are tons and tons of information on how you can do this very, very affordably. But as far as if you do have the funds to get stuff done now, this is our recommendation. Because as far as freeze-dried food, which this is, it can last up to 25 years. Not to mention, of course, in that time period, if you actually break this down right now to current inflation tasks and everything else, if you get a 3-month plan from them, it will break down to less than $10 a day per person. In fact, it was almost half of that. When you look at what you can buy at the grocery store right now, that doesn't even buy a meal, let alone, everything you need for an entire day. So again, go over and check it out, marfooglenews.com/prep. It's very easy to store. If you get the 3-month, again, you can actually get smaller packages, but you get a giant discount, up to $200 off when you get the 3-month supply. And again, that is all packaged to last. It's very easy and it is very efficient because it is freeze-dried. It takes out everything and minimizes the size. And then all you have to do is add water or cook in water, and it comes back to life. It keeps most of the nutrients in and most of the flavor compared to dehydrating. But again, if you don't have the funds to do something like marfooglenews.com/prep, then we have lots of friends in this community that will help you out. There's, of course, Alaska Prepper that does payday preps. He can show you how to spend $10 and get some really, really great food that will last a couple years. So again, go over and check it out, marfooglenews.com/prep. Dex, and then, of course, the other side of the coin, let's talk about how Ukraine just launched an attack.
Yeah, so we got, Russia second day pummeling Ukraine. Ukraine, get this, they are now going into Belgorod. So just like they did the incursion into Kursk, they're now trying to take a second region and crossing the border and attempting to take the area around Belgorod, so that region. So obviously they're feeling very emboldened with the success they had in the Kursk region. So their forces have been separately going after that other location. The Belgorod governor, Vachislav Gladkov, confirmed the attempts from the UKR forces to breach the border, stating that the situation is difficult, but on his point, under control. The Russian Defense Forces have reportedly repelled some of the Ukraine advances there. So the citizens in Belgorod are urged to take shelter due to the threats that are coming in from the missiles. And there's about 11,000 people have been evacuated from a particular district in that area because of what's happening. So, but, look, they already got 500 square miles in the Kursk region. I don't know, how strong their military is to actually start doing two different separate incursions while they're also trying to defend themselves on the Eastern Front where they lost the land. So this just doesn't make a lot of sense in my mind. But at the same time, I guess they think, hey, we had all that success in Kursk. Maybe we could do it again in Belgorod, and maybe we could really put the screws to Putin, so to speak, so that it throws them all off. But at the same time, look at what Russia is responding with. They have just been pummeling UKR with the massive attacks, some of the largest attacks in the conflict that have been coming in. So pay attention to what's going on here. This, has obviously an opportunity to escalate very quickly. And as it relates to the fact that Russia, this is the last point I want to make real quick, Russia has absolutely stated they wholeheartedly believe the West was involved in the Kursk incursion. So they're going to believe that the West is involved in this, and they believe we're involved in everything. So they could at any moment just turn this into retaliation for an invasion on their territory.
For the U.S. And looking straight at us. So, and then NATO Ukraine Council has an emergency urgent meeting to meet on Wednesday at Kiev's request. All of this going down, of course, now NATO Secretary Jens Stoltenberg will convene a meeting of the NATO Ukraine Council on Wednesday at Kiev's request, a spokesperson for the Western Military Alliance said on Tuesday. The meeting will be held at ambassadorial level, said the spokesperson. Ukrainian Defense Minister Rustem Umerov is expected to brief allies via video link on the battlefield situation and priority capability needs. Now, one thing to stop you right there, why don't we see that? I would love to see that as far as the update on the battlefield and see it directly from these people. But of course, that's going to go to ambassador and up and no one else. Ukrainian Defense Minister Rustem Umerov is expected to, of course, do this. And ambassadors from NATO's member countries and Ukrainian officials normally attend the meetings of the council. Tomorrow's meeting comes after recent waves of heavy Russian strikes against Ukrainian civilians and infrastructure. What do you want to bet that in this called together convening that they are going to, of course, say this is all going down. They're taking out all this infrastructure. There's no power. There's no this. Very shortly, within the week or 2 weeks, or definitely within a month, I believe somebody's either going to be sending new stuff in or they're going to make a decision on either helping or something else is about to go down. That's what I feel like is about to go down. I mean, they've already set it up. All of the countries have said, well, we might have to jump in. And now you have them pummeling Ukraine, not 1 inch of it on of course, media and everything else. They're talking about it, but they're not showing it. Dex, go ahead.
Well, and this also goes directly to the point that Russia's saying, hey, obviously NATO is involved. What is happening? Well, Ukraine is doing all this work, and we have to have our meeting with NATO so we can get our orders to see what we do next, right? It's sort of, it plays right into that hand on and that's one point. The second point is what you were saying, Adam. I think it's absolutely the time right now, especially in the position that our country is in, that if they're going to enter this conflict, they being the West, the US, the current administration, the people in charge, the power brokers, whatever you want to call them, I think the time is now. We're going to start to see this between now and October at the latest. This is going to escalate beyond just Ukraine. I would be shocked if they don't do that in the coming weeks, if not the next month.
Unless Zelensky and JB and they're all so confident, and they probably do have something up their sleeve that they are absolutely confident that their party or their people, their circle is still going to be in power after November. But if they're not confident, then they would get something like this going and have some huge event go down between here and November. That would, again, if they needed to jump in, Zelensky knows that the party that supports him, the main president that has been behind them the whole time, if they want them to help, they have very little time left to get them involved. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, even Adam, even if they think they can't win, and they, one side of this, you could say, well, they'll make a big conflict and it'll prevent that event from happening, that selection process, if you want to call it that, from happening. Some people will take that approach, but the other way to look at it too is even if it just goes down, like it's bound to happen and it'll go through the process and somebody will be a winner. Even if they think they're not going to win, if they can engage and start the conflict beforehand, then even the person, if they lose, will be stuck holding the bag of a conflict. And you can't necessarily wrap a conflict like that up overnight. It's going to drag on. And you just don't walk in. As much as you want to think that T-Man could just walk in and wave his hand and say, okay, we're no longer in a conflict. If they start it up and get it up and running, then they know they'll have it running. They being the warmongers / military industrial complex, whoever you want to say, insert name here, they've got what they want.
And this isn't even mentioning everything that's going on with Iran. Of course, now they're making decisions that could trigger things with China and escorting ships. We just talked about that on the last show. Of course, things are going on in Venezuela. All of these countries are directly holding hands. They're completely in cahoots and really tight allies. Venezuela, of course, their Pick the Pres Day. There's questions still swirling about the validity of it. And now they're even showing on one end proof that the other person won. And then on the president's side, they're not really providing anything. So things are getting shaken up all over the world. And then, of course, in Europe, you have them trying to track down citizens all over the world to not talk about all of the unrest that is literally happening right now. I mean, we are in an insane place in history right now. And people don't think that this is about to go south. I think we're actually really blessed right now. Even with all of the crap going on, we are blessed right now. Every morning I wake up, I'm super, super feeling blessed because this is not the worst it can be. I mean, everybody knows, your mom used to tell you, wow, kids there were starving and, they wouldn't leave food on their plate. Yeah, it's very true. We are completely dependent on our system of just plentiful food, plentiful infrastructure, plentiful everything. And we are going to be extremely soft when all of that gets taken away. I mean, and especially if you look at the youth, it's going to be absolutely hell on earth in the United States. If we lose internet power and water infrastructure, it's going to go to crap immediately. If you think about how many people are completely dependent on it and are not self-reliant. Kishara Ninki, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for supporting Independent. Again, says, uploaded a moon impact video 5 years ago. Again, did you upload it, Kishara, or did I? Again, if you can let me know in the chat. Samuel Turner, what is going on? Conquest Josh. I talked about a moon video. And, of course, a lot of people a few years ago around that actually uploaded videos of something hitting the moon. I don't know if that video is real. But the one I was talking about is when a supposed military member did a live stream basically talking about how something was going to hit the moon. And they supposedly got taken down for it. So that was kind of creepy, saying that the emergency and what everybody is preparing for, the world's elites, they're not preparing for something, asteroid to hit the world, that they're worried more so, and they think something is going to hit the moon. If we lose the moon, we lose Earth. So nobody really talks about that anymore. So I don't know if that's what you're talking about. If you are, it's almost something to actually look back at, and we might actually do another video on it. And then White House's Kirby says U.S. would defend Israel in Iranian attack. The United States remains committed to defending Israel in the event of an Iranian attack, White House National Security spokesperson John Kirby said on Tuesday. John Kirby told Israel's Channel 12 that it was tough to predict the chances of an attack, but the White House takes Iranian rhetoric seriously. Says, quote, we believe that they are still postured and poised to launch attack should they want to do that, which is why we have an enhanced force posture in the region, which, if you didn't know, they actually took the last carrier out of the South China Sea and put it back over into the Middle East. They have actually multiple carrier groups there, and they have a ton of Navy all floating around. Our message to Iran is consistent, has been, and will stay consistent. One, don't do it. There's no reason to escalate this. There's no reason to potentially start some sort of all-out regional war. And number two, we are going to be prepared to defend Israel if it comes to that. So they're telling Iran that if anything happens to Israel, it's essentially happening to the U.S. Now, as us sitting here in the U.S. watching this, you should realize that if this does go down, they're stating that they're going to get involved. Now, they've already been involved. And you think about it, Iran hasn't really, they haven't, hit us publicly. They haven't just all out did a massive attack and then they took credit for it. They haven't had lone wolves and sleeper cells activate here and do anything crazy. But yet we have hacks. We know that they've been hacking different infrastructure and things like that in Iran. This is Iran, not China. Multiple times a day in some cases, which was admitted by a sheriff. I'm trying to remember his name, but a sheriff in, I think, Ohio. But he was talking about how their infrastructure was hacked by 3 different countries almost every day: Iran, China, and Russia. As far as with Iran, they already stopped missiles in midair. They shot them down. They got involved. And we see them not respond. Well, the thing is, we do see that they have actually said that they have these massive plans. T-Man, our former president, took out Soleimani because they said they had some sort of attack planned on the United States, not on Israel, on the United States, that was so massive that made the 2001 event look like chicken feed. That like kills me, because I'm like, what was that event? If I could be a fly on the wall in that closed door meeting in the Situation Room, I would absolutely go nuts, because it has been driving me crazy. If it makes 2001 event here in New York look like chicken feed, what in the hell was it? I mean, we can all speculate. I would think that it would be something along the lines of power structure or infrastructure, things that we see all of our adversaries are talking about, including today's story about Russia. Would they do it alone, or would they team up? They haven't done their big attack, but that's possibly because they are gearing up for everyone to be coordinated. We have the United States now spread out, and perfect timing for now the United States Navy to be over there. Now there's nobody over by Taiwan, and there's areas that even our own, the Navy and active duty Navy in our group sent an email saying it's absolutely preposterous to take that out of there and to put it over there. So people are saying they're leaving gaps. They said it's almost purposeful. So people see that, they haven't done anything. When it does happen, I don't think it's going to be small. And they've been planning this way before all of this went down. This was before October 7th that we saw videos, and before October 7th when Soleimani was taken out. And now, all over their country, you see posters, huge billboards, with not only Soleimani in the front, but of course the 2 other gentlemen who got taken out, the next president, and then of course the negotiator. Now they're martyrs, and they're pasting them all over their country. And people think that they're just going to say, whatever. These people are, they're the kind of people in a fight that if you say, you're just scared, they're not the people that are going to be like, yeah, I am, or just walk away. They're going to be the people that fight you just because you called them scared. That's what's scary about Iran. And what's even scarier is that some of the biggest militaries in the Middle East are saying that they are on their side. Not to mention all of the people around the world that are on their side too right now, because of all of whatever Ganda is going around, or whatever opinions are floating around. Most people don't actually know enough to have an opinion, but yet they just pick which one they think more people are on. So we're in a very scary time right now, and that's why we prep. Dex, let's talk about ransomware gang threatens release of top secret documents from US Marshals.
So the ransomware gang known as Hunters International claims to have hacked the US Marshal Service and obtained 386 gigabytes of data, comprising of 327,000 files. The group has threatened to release the data, which they claim includes quote unquote top secret documents, unless they're paid off. That's how they work. They steal documents, lock them up, and say, hey, we'll release them back to you if you pay us. A lot of times these folks are actually tied back to even places like North Korea. I'm not saying this one particularly is, but they even actually generate a significant amount of revenue for the country of North Korea by doing this type of hacking, this type of ransomware. So the stolen data reportedly includes dossiers on gang members, mugshots, files marked confidential and top secret, as well as files from the FBI. Specific documents include reports from the Organized Crime and Drug Enforcement Task Group and a white paper on Instagram from the National Domestic Communications Assistance Center. So the U.S. Marshal Service has had separate ransomware attacks back in last year, February 2023. And the spokesperson from the Marshal Service has acknowledged their awareness of the claims, but has not actually confirmed that it's authentic yet. But it sounds like it might be, given the state of things. But if it is, we'll see if they get paid off. I don't know if they'll even tell us, but I guess if they don't release it and somebody tracks some large crypto money shifts, then we'll know they got paid. Otherwise, they'll probably release it if they actually have the data.
You know what I think is they're specifically the Organized Crime Enforcement Task Group and the National Domestic Communications Assistance Center. Both of those, right? They're putting that out on their fishing pole and saying, we'll release stuff from this, including something called Operation Turnbuckle, which had screenshots of it in it from alleged traffickers, right? How many of the cartels that are doing all of this, how many of those do you think might be tied in with three-letter agencies? What if those top secret documents show that, I don't know, they were armed or that they were given things by a three-letter agency, quite possibly, right? They might have dangled something that they absolutely do not want out. I mean, obviously they don't want it out. It's top secret. Something tells me that specifically because of what they went after, there's some pretty juicy information in that. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Go over and check out EMP Shield if you haven't already. If you, of course, have heard of an EMP, most of all of you have, it is not something that will be fun to deal with if you are far from home. Either that, or if you're in the big city and you want to get out, then you definitely want your vehicles to run. You also want your generators to run, your mobile homes, your RVs, your home, in fact. You can protect all of which with a EMP Shield. It's a device that can ground the signal from both an EMP and a CME or a Carrington-level event from the sun in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your device. Again, go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARF. Being seriously, I hope that a lot of people will end up considering this, especially if you have a newer car. Your car is completely electronic. It's not going to run after an EMP. And most of the newer cars, almost everything is electronic. So that will all be fried if it is how it is. Now, I hope at some point that cars end up putting EMP-protected components in it or put something like an EMP shield in it. I hope homes have a standard in the future where they have to be EMP protected. But right now, they're not. So if you want to protect yourself, you're going to have to do it. You might have to do it for your family members. Again, nobody is going to do it for you. The government's not going to subsidize this for you. But at the same, in the same turn, they are working with EMP Shield. DHS is working with EMP Shield. DOD working. The DEMSA team at the Texas Grid. So again, you see them preparing with this kind of stuff. That's what we should be doing too. If they have this contingency plan, we should have this contingency plan. If you haven't noticed, the government is always prepped. In fact, the government preps, does drills, exercises on a daily basis, but they're not theorists, right? They're responsible. It's crazy to say that if you do this, then you're some sort of wacko crazy and should be on some sort of list. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. Make sure to use the code MARF. Again, not only to help us out, but to get a $50 off discount per device and help independent news. And then, of course, we'll save most of this for, again, the other video. But Russia is warning the United States of risks of World War III. Again, Dex and I just went over this on our other channel, but essentially they are saying that we're stoking an extremely close situation with Russia right now. And of course, many people, and in fact, even my friend that I talked to today says, oh, it's all Ganda. What I understand right now is that there's Ukrainian troops inside of Russia. NATO has now picked up all of the countries that Russia essentially said, if you do that, it's on. We have hit every target on their doctrine list, and I say we by US, Ukraine, NATO. They have all hit these targets, and we're not going to see some sort of massive response from them and all of their closest allies. Think that's kind of crazy. Obviously, you think, oh, it's just going to be in Ukraine. They're going to respond to Ukraine. Well, they're pretty pissed off at us right now, and I don't think that this is just Russia. I don't think this is just China. I don't think this is just North Korea. I don't think this is just Iran. I don't think it's just Venezuela. I don't think it's just Cuba. It's all of them. And we're missing probably 15 or 20 other big countries that are now involved in all of this and setting up. So, again, if you want to see that video, make sure to go over and check out our sister channel. Dex, a quick word about our other video over on Marfoogle News.
Yeah, if Russia, we've made fun of for a while that Russia's put out these red lines and we just keep crossing them and nothing happens. But eventually something has to happen. Eventually something has to happen. And have we hit that point yet? I don't know. But even if we keep crossing these lines and they don't strike us, I think we're going to eventually be so emboldened, we as in NATO and the Western allies led by the US are going to be so emboldened that they're just going to feel like they can just steamroll into Russia and start something their own. So that's the path we're on. It's clear as day. You can see it. We just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. Right now we get to do it at arm's length because we can just blame UKR for it. But in reality, everyone knows we're the ones doing it. And it won't be that far until it's actually us and we're taking the retaliatory strikes, whether it be on the US homeland, which would be very different for most Americans who've never been there, versus the European front.
Well, when obviously there is something in Ukraine that they are absolutely 100,000% not going to give up. In fact, there might be things in Russia that they are not telling us about that they are going to try to grab. We don't know. Because right now they're inside of Russia with possibly NATO infrastructure. But as far as it looks like all of the stuff they've done over the last 2 years, they're not giving up on Ukraine. Even though everyone else has. The taxpayers definitely have not wanted to support this. So whatever's there is definitely valuable. It used to be like, oh, if there was a war, it was about oil. And they would say, oh, it's because of this and this attack and it's for freedom, it's for this. But really it came down to oil because that's the currency that ran the world. The US dollar is called the petrodollar. But now we're shifting away from petrol, and we're all of a sudden going to be this green world without, fossil fuels. What is it going to be next then? Is lithium going to be that? I don't know if it was Graham. One of them basically blurted out and said, well, there's over $12 trillion worth of resources in Ukraine. We don't want Russia to have that. Did he just accidentally blurt out exactly why we are doing this? What's less than a $1 trillion when there's $12 trillion worth of stuff there? That's probably worth it. What if it's way more than $12 trillion? What if that's just one of the things they can get out of there? So with that being said, what happens when they run out of Ukrainian men? What happens when they run out of Ukrainian women? What happens when they run out of Ukrainians? Who do you think is going to jump in? Do you think they just spent all that money and they're going to go, whatever, they got us? Are they going to stop bidding on this auction? I don't think so. I think they're going to go all the way through, and it's a matter of time before you have U.S. and NATO troops openly and publicly in Ukraine. But I think that that's known by everybody on the other side. So this is turning into a world war, and it's all going to happen at the same time. Everybody's going to take their next resources, and the structure of the world is about to be changed. And there are rich people that are funding both sides. Thank you, Kishara Ninki. We did get that, and I apologize. It says, I uploaded to you on the website, TikTok vid. Kishara, again, thank you so much for doing that. Again, totally understand. And again, if you want to upload a video, make sure to go to marfooglenews.com/playmyvideo. You can actually submit your video and we'll show it here on the show. On top of that, you can actually send me breaking news or tips 24/7 at adam@marfooglenews.com. Again, that's adam@marfooglenews.com. And I will try to respond to you by 7:30 a.m. Weekdays, of course, Monday through Friday. So thank you guys for those of you that have done that. Make sure to put in the subject line, very important, cover this. Cover this, because then I can find it. All right, thank your mods. They are absolutely awesome. Of course, you have a wonderful, wonderful site with all of them on it. marfooglenews.com/friends. Go check out everybody from Bones to Wages World. And, of course, Wages World is covering all that solar activity right now, so make sure to go check them out. And, of course, bibliography is available there as well. Thank you so much, Dex, for your service today. Appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
And you guys have a wonderful night. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout-out. It's a shoutro. And someone asked earlier, yes, I make all the, I think it was Janelle. I don't know if somebody answered you in chat, but yes. It's not always good, but it's always something.